Let me tell you, if anyone ever told me that the quiet hum of a sewing machine could stitch together an entire destiny, I'd have laughed in their face, yet here I am, remembering every night I watched Abigail work that ancient singer like it was a lifeline, her fingers dancing with fabric and thread while the world outside just kept spinning. See, Abigail's story isn't about fairy tale love or some miracle overnight. It's about what happens when you give everything to someone who'd rather keep you a secret, thinking they're protecting you when they're really just hiding from themselves. Yeah, I've seen Ethel. I lived through it with her. So let me back up a sec because you need to know how it started, or else you'll miss just how far she had to crawl just to be seen. Abigail's world was that tiny tailor shop in Mushin, Lagos, crammed between a barber and a fruit stall, long after sunset when most folks had gone home. She'd stay until the last hem was finished, her mind not on her sore back, but on Joseph, the man she thought would be her forever. They'd been together 2 years, engaged 5 months, and every night she'd come home, arms full of dreams and a prayer he'd love her out loud, not just in private. But every time she hinted at meeting his friends or stepping into his world, he'd pat her hand and say something like, "I'm just protecting what we have," as if love were a fragile thing, ready to break if shown too much light. But you know what's funny? You can hide a diamond in a sock drawer for years, and one day, the world finds it anyway. One weekend, Abigail planned a special dinner, picked out a gown she'd made herself, the color of fresh mango, elegant but quiet, hoping Joseph would be proud to walk beside her. But he called last minute, voice distracted, telling her his lawyer friend, Isla, crashed the dinner, and maybe next time, babe. Meanwhile, he sat at a rooftop bar, letting Isla and his buddy Luke laugh about low-key girls and tailors thinking they're entrepreneurs. He didn't defend Abigail, just stared at his drink, shame rising like heat in August. Now, I know what you're thinking, why didn't she leave? But love can make you believe that patience is the same as hope, that maybe tomorrow he'll finally see you. Abigail just smiled through it, served his dinner, and went back to stitching dreams into wedding gowns for other people's happily ever afters. When she tried to share her growing business, he'd say, "That's not scalable, Abby, it's just sewing." Like her work was a hobby, not her heart. The twist? It wasn't just Joseph who couldn't see her. His friends Grace, Isla, all of them made a game of mocking the unknown chalk-stained tailor they bumped into at the market, never knowing that girl in mustard was the woman Joseph loved, the woman he kept behind the curtain. And Joseph let it slide, kept Abigail a secret, thinking he was protecting her from a world too sharp, too cruel. But secrets have a way of growing teeth. One day, Abigail overheard Joseph on the phone, accidentally called her mid-conversation, laughing with Luke about how she was still finding her feet, as if her worth needed polishing before he'd show her off. That was the first real crack in her heart. She didn't say a word that night, just started drawing a new design, something fierce and soft, something she called resilience. If nobody would clap for her, she'd learn to clap for herself. Then came her birthday. Joseph took her out, made it quiet, gave her a perfume she already had. She smiled, grateful, until the next day, scrolling social media, and saw him at a party with his friends, surrounded by laughter, cake, and a big, proud smile. The same man who whispered no noise had thrown a celebration she wasn't even invited to. Abigail quietly put her ring away. Something shifted. The sadness turned solid, like a shield. But life's got a wild sense of humor. Around this time, a friend slid her a flyer in anonymous luxury fashion showcase, open for unknown designers. Abigail submitted her work under a pseudonym, thinking nothing would come of it. She had no idea one of her dresses had already ended up in Isla's hands, gifted through a client. Destiny moves in strange ways, you know. Meanwhile, Joseph kept spinning lies, telling his friends Abigail lived abroad, dodging questions, keeping her out of sight. All the while, her designs were crossing into his world, turning heads without a name or a face. When she got the email that her label was a finalist for the biggest showcase of the year, she cried not for Joseph, but because she'd finally been seen by someone who didn't need her to play small. The night of the Lux 21 Gala, Joseph sat among his elite friends, jaw-dropping as Grace swept in wearing the dress Abigail made. The crowd gasped. Whispers of, I Adel Yerho is she, rippled around the room. Joseph's heart sank as he recognized the fabric, the talent he'd ignored, the woman he'd doubted. It all clicked right then. He'd been hiding gold, and now the whole city wanted to wear it. You want the cinematic moment? Here's where it hits. Abigail stepped onto that runway, bold as you please, dressed in black velvet and gold, her chin high, her eyes blazing. The crowd fell silent. Then the applause started a tidal wave, rolling over her, lifting her higher than any praise Joseph had ever given in private. Even as he sat there, stunned, Abigail never once looked his way. She didn't need to. Her work said everything she'd swallowed for years. The people who'd once laughed were now clapping, so hard their palms stung. After the show, Joseph tried to reach her, but her assistant stopped him. She already gave the world what she owed, she said. If she wants to give you more, she'll find you. Abigail sat backstage, surrounded by friends, her heart finally at peace. She hadn't needed Joseph to shine. She just needed to stop shrinking. But stories don't tie up so neat, do they? Joseph tried to make amends, wore her suit to a black-tie gala, tagged her, not the business, hoping to show the world who'd made him look good. Abigail saw it, but didn't reply. He came to her shop with her old, unfinished wedding gown, returned it with a note admitting, "You deserve to walk in your truth, not my shame." She listened, but she didn't run back. Not yet. Weeks later, they sat in a quiet cafe. No cameras, no costumes, just two people, finally honest. Joseph said, "I was scared they'd judge me standing beside you." Abigail replied, "You just had to stand." He offered her the ring not as a plea, but a gesture. She took it, not to wear, but to hold. "We'll start from where truth lives," she said, "and I won't shrink to fit any space that won't hold all of me." For the first time, they sat as equals. Months passed, and Abigail opened her own flagship store, every inch a testament to the woman she'd become. Joseph stood in the crowd, no longer hiding, finally content to support, not overshadow. Abigail toasted to the women who were told to wait for permission. Don't. Walk in anyway. The room exploded with applause. That night, Joseph slipped her a note. "Thank you for loving me enough to leave so I could learn to return with open eyes." She smiled, no longer behind any curtain. Her name wasn't just on the label, it was the legacy. So, let me ask, when you look at your own life, who are you hiding behind your pride? And what brilliance are you keeping from the world because you're scared of being judged? Share your thoughts. Let's talk about what it really means to love boldly, to be seen, and to stand beside someone not in the shadows, but in the light. Drop a comment, leave a like, and don't forget to share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Because sometimes the best love story is the one where you finally show up for yourself.